life of just sitting and being mindful, and you're going to learn different things about how that's helpful to your brain, to the stress that is in your life, and how it can really help you appreciate this very precious and transient, very short really, if you look at it, in terms of a tree. We're here on this earth not so long, so let's make the best use of it while we're here. So our mission is empowering you to live a Zen-inspired life of openness, empathy, and clarity based on a foundational practice of mindfulness meditation. So let me break that down a little bit. Openness, what does that mean? Yes, open-hearted, right? Being teachable, able to learn from our experience, from our mistakes, because really that is our key learning opportunities, when we can learn to be with mistakes. And I've made a lot of them, believe me. And then empathy, right? How to meaningfully connect and attune not only to others, but to yourself, right? How to really listen to yourself with kindness and compassion, empathy. And if you can really do that to yourself, then it naturally exudes to others. Like in hula, the fragrance of a flower, it just kind of pervades the environment that it is in. And clarity, right? That has to do with wisdom and discernment about what's really important to you. Right? Being honest, being patient with ourselves, and living from a place of integrity. So that's clarity. Let's define mindfulness. All right, so mindfulness, our definition is an intentional awareness that is embodied and without judgment. So let's break that down also. Intention is really critical, your intention. That's paying attention on purpose, intentional, right? Paying attention to our minds. What are we thinking? Our bodies, how are we feeling? Paying attention, what is going on around us? The intention is so important because you can harness your intention to change habits. Habits, patterns of behavior that just do not serve you. Embodied, right? An intentional awareness that is embodied. I think for most of us, most of the day we spend in our heads, right? It is that kind of a culture that we have, it's very, we reason, analysis, quick thinking, articulate, right? That's the kind of culture that we are in. And as a result, I think a lot of us think of our bodies merely as something that carries around our heads, right? Because our head is the main attraction here, right? But what we want to do is start to focus inward. And when we're only up here, our attention can be pretty fragmented. There's so many things going on, right? So many digital things, media, even they're going to have self-driving cars. I think that's available too, So to me, that's very up in our heads a lot. Well, we're not even going to have to think when we're driving a car. Oh my gosh, okay. So anyway, how can we really listen to our bodies and value our bodies? Because our bodies have wisdom. I know this in hula. The body will learn a dance and then it will get to a point when you don't have to even think about it. Your body has wisdom, so we have to check in to the body for this embodiment, embodied wisdom. And then the third thing, an intentional awareness that is embodied and without judgment. So it can be pretty daunting to think about not having judgments. I mean, when you start to meditate and slow down, you'll start to notice that you've got a lot of judgments about everything. So it might seem idealistic to think that we might not have judgments, but with practice, it's possible to be able to see the judgments that we're making and to let them go. That's the mindfulness aspect of it. So we use this example of digital versus analog. I like to, everything is digital. Like, how many of you have digital watches even? Yeah, everybody. Who has one with a face? Oh, you have one with a face too. Okay, very few though, right? Everything is digital here. And it's on, off, binary, there's no gray. There's digital clocks, just flip. There's no context. Zoom, social media. Everything is going so fast. Digital is fast. It's like instant. You search out something on Google, you get the answer in 10 seconds or something. So it's easy to think that we are digital because we are in such a digital age, but we are not digital. We are analog. Analog, meaning that, we're humans. We tell stories, we like to sing and we like to dance and so we're different. We're not fast like computers. We have emotions. So it really takes courage and discipline actually to sit with our busy brains, with all the thoughts going, Gwen mentioned, all these thoughts can just get overwhelming after a while. So it really actually takes patience and courage to sit with that. And so mindfulness meditation, while it's really quite a simple practice, it is not a walk in the park. It is not that easy. So let's take a look at our brains, just for a little neuroscience, and this is very general, all right? It's a very high overview. I'm gonna share with you a picture of the brain. Okay, let's see here. Here's the brain. All right, so I'm going to start with the reptilian brain. That's the red part over here, the brain stem. So it is the oldest part of our brain and really very highly reactive, and it's designed to be so because it's there to keep you safe, basically. And it can also keep you triggered. All right? So the autonomic nervous system is regulated by reflexes in the brain stem, right? And this autonomic nervous system is responsible for the fight or flight reflex that we have, and also for the function of our internal organs like the heart, the lungs, the kidneys. It's a good thing we do not have to think about those organs functioning, or we probably would forget, and that would be the end of us. So that's the reptilian brain. The limbic system is that orange part in between. And the limbic system allows us to be relational, social beings, and it contributes to our emotions and our capacity to have empathy. It supports a variety of functions like long-term memory, behavior, and it's involved in motivation, learning, and memory. It interacts heavily with the neocortex, our cerebral cortex. And dogs and cats have limbic systems, snakes do not. So you can see the difference. So the limbic system allows us to read facial expressions, detect different types of humor, subtle emotional cues, and different tones of voice. The amygdala is located deep within this limbic system and is considered very important in processing of memory, decision-making, and emotional responses like fear, anxiety, or aggression. And it's called the brain's smoke detector. So there can be what has been called the amygdala hijack when the brain perceives a threat. When the brain perceives a threat, right? It's important that we don't become part of the food chain, right? So we flee or we fight or sometimes we freeze. So that keeps us safe, but it also generates stress. There's a whole bunch of hormones that are released into our body, stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, that floods our system, getting us ready to fight or flee, and sometimes, just freeze. So when this happens, we can be flooded for 20 to 25 minutes, right? So we're not, we can't turn this off automatically. However, with mindfulness, we can actually cut the amount of time that we're flooded. Like if you're really angry, right? It takes time for you to calm down. So our brains have a negative bias, which means that it tends to dwell on negative things and remember negative things more than positive things. So this is good to remember about our brains. It's trying to keep us safe. And then going back, I want to show you again the cortex, the prefrontal cortex. So this neocortex is really the newest and largest part of our brain, and it has 8 domains that help us as human beings with emotional balance, fear modulation, impulse control, and executive functioning, which has to do with decision making, problem solving, focus, and follow through. So it's very good to strengthen if you have problems with procrastination, because it helps us deal with things that we would prefer to avoid. And it helps to regulate the limbic system and the reptilian brain. So when we meditate, practice mindfulness, it is strengthening the neocortex of our brain. The other really interesting thing about neuroscience is that they found that there is neuroplasticity in our brains, which means that we are able to learn and change all the way until we die. So that's where the intention comes in. If we want to change habitual behavior or thoughts, we can do that. So when you're sitting meditation, it looks like you're doing nothing, but you're really not doing nothing. You are actually strengthening your ability to manage your emotions, strengthening your impulse control, your executive functioning, the quality of your awareness, which is leading to a more grounded, more resilient, and more integrated life as a human being. So let's just kind of focus on that embodied experience. You know, what is that about, right? Usually when we have a challenge or something comes up that's really uncomfortable for us, we immediately jump up into our heads and try to think of a solution, a way to fix it, right? So we can lessen our strength. But, or we can try to ignore it. But a lot of times that does not work, and that is probably why you are here tonight, right? So the embodied experience would look like this. Something comes up and you're really angry, say. So you can then notice that you are thinking about the story that's getting you revved up even more. The more you think about it, the more upset that you get. Can you now just change the focus to be in your body? How is your body feeling? How is it feeling? Okay, I notice that I'm breathing really fast. My hands are sweaty. My jaw is tight, right? I can feel all of that. Okay, that is being with the embodied experience, and it's not so comfortable to be there. So the practice is to just notice and breathe, because we know that feelings and emotions are not here forever. They change. So if we can just breathe and be mindful, they will pass. Now, if we're really, if we're really upset, it could take 20, 25 minutes, depending on how strong your brain is from your meditation practice, right? But feel your body and have courage to just be with it, and then notice the story, notice you're jumping up to your head, and then come back to your body. I've actually also been journaling now when I notice, like, for example, I think it was Sunday, I felt this loneliness, this feeling of loneliness come up for me, which I've had before. And so instead of doing something, because I'm very good at finding things to do, I'm one of those, doer type people, right? I started journaling, I started writing. So I sat down and I just started journaling. And after about, maybe it was 10, 15 minutes, I didn't really discover why I was lonely, but the feeling went away. So just knowing, that feelings and emotions can move, they can change. So let's do a guided meditation right now. So I want you to put down any notes or paper that you brought, and I want you just to imagine that you are in a deep ocean. And if anybody have problems, with water and being in the deep water, maybe you can picture yourself somewhere else safe, like deep in a forest. but I'm going to use the metaphor of the ocean. So I want you to just think about being in deep on the bottom of a deep ocean where it's very still and peaceful. Yes, you can close your eyes, that's fine. Notice how you're occupying space right now. Notice how your feet are making contact with the floor, your bottom on your chair. And notice how you're breathing. In your imagination, let yourself relax. No deadlines, no to-do lists, almost timeless. It's comfortable down there deep in the water. You're warm enough, you can breathe. And then as you allow yourself to be in the water, notice how the water is completely supporting your body. And you can begin to feel the tension and stress just leaving, moving out. It's very relaxing, rejuvenating, peaceful, quiet, very safe. It's spacious to be in this beautiful water. You don't have anything to do here, just to be. No deadlines. You're completely still, peaceful, and calm. And you might again be aware of your breathing. You do not have to change it. Just notice how you're breathing. Where's your breath coming from? Your precious breath. So as you get comfortable in the water, you begin to look around and explore your environment. Vast, spacious. And when you look up, you can see the surface. And you can see movement there, maybe even some waves. There could even be a storm going. But where you are, everything is perfectly still. No movement. So just get curious about being in this space. Okay, so you can come back, take about 30 seconds to come back to wherever you live, gently to your room, feeling your seat again and the floor. Being back on the earth, or dry earth anyway. So how is that? How is that for you? You can just unmute yourself and speak
It
How
was great. I want to go back.
you can always go back there. Okay, this is your own guided meditation you can use at any time. Okay, good. All right, good. Anybody else?
I found myself just noticing, just being distracted by either, I don't know, feeling like I needed to itch somewhere or fix my shirt or kind of having a hard time being.
Kind of hard time being there. Okay, okay, right. That's a good point because was it hard to get there? First of all, was it hard to get there?
No, it was kind of staying there, if that makes sense. I just started to, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. It was what? It was standard.
No, it was hard staying there. Like
Oh,
once it was, yeah.
yeah, it was hard to stay there, but it was not too hard to get there.
No.
Uh-huh. That's the what you experienced there was a moment of mindfulness. And then generally, it's hard to stay there. But you have that moment of peace and of awareness and of a kind of oneness with your environment, right? You kind of disappear for a minute. Uh-huh. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's your moment of mindfulness. So that's just an experience of what mindfulness can be like when it is, peaceful. So let me show you another diagram here to kind of way to visualize this moment of mindfulness. Okay, get back to here. Oh, where did it go? Not that one. Okay, so this is what we call our wheel of awareness model. So the rim on the outside is the content of our lives, right? Where we tend to live, what makes us human beings, all of our thoughts, all of our feelings, our emotions, our relationship. It's a wonderful thing. This is the content of our lives. Oops, sorry. The hub there in the middle, that is where you went, first of all, in the guided meditation. The hub is where it is quiet and it is calm, and it is what we call an awareness free of the content of our thoughts. So we can always shift our experience from being on the rim to being on into the hub. When I told Gwen, yes, you can go there anytime. You can visualize this piece at any time. If you only live on the rim, you are definitely going to suffer because thoughts and feelings are going to seem big and unworkable, and feelings can become moods, moodiness. So it's important to be able to shift our awareness and our attention to the hub, to be able to actually watch our experience. Like when you were watching the waves, you could see, oh my God, there was a storm going on up there, but in the hub, you were fine. You were centered and grounded and peaceful. Now, this is not saying that, when things happen, there is that moment, it might be a long moment, that you are in the feeling, you are on the rim, right? But having that ability to have that meta awareness that, oh, I notice my body, I am really upset because I can feel my heart, that's that meta awareness that I can feel my heart beating really fast. I know something is happening here and I am upset. But I do not have to live in that upsetness for a long time. Okay. So when we say that meditation is strengthening that prefrontal cortex, it is actually strengthening the hub of our awareness. It's another way of saying that, so that it allows us not to be just fully identified with being on the rim in our emotions. So this is extremely powerful if you can be aware of this hub of awareness. And as you practice mindfulness meditation, it is growing your hub of awareness to be able to see what's going on here. And for those who have not been practicing mindfulness, the hub can be a very small, like a pea, and we're constantly distracted by what's going on the rim because it's very seductive to be there. So you all have the capacity to grow your hub of awareness. So this the quality of your attention should not be taken for granted. It is a precious thing. And you can grow this quality of attention with mindfulness meditation. Any questions? I've said a lot so far. Okay, are we good? All right, so there's another diagram I'm going to show you. The last diagram, I think. Let's get this here. So this here is the river of life. And we are integrating, we are saying that we are a wellness center, actually. And wellness looks like, I'm using this metaphor of a river. You could think of the Mississippi River. It's wide, and when we're relaxed, the banks of the river are wide, and the water can flow easily through it. We have an energy, there's a forward momentum in our life, and there's a confidence that we have. We're flexible, stable, really a sense of well-being. And if there's like an obstacle, like a big rock in the river, well, we just flow around the rock. When we go out of integration, which means, the banks of this river get narrower. It's the same amount of water going through, but the banks get narrower when we are out of integration. So the water is flowing faster, and then we can hit one of these two sides of the banks, and we hit it so hard we can get stuck there. Right? There's two ways to go out of integration. We hit the ice side, we contract, we get out of the flow, we freeze up, we can become a couch potato, depressed, and it can even get so bad as to become catatonic. If we hit the other side, the fire, we're just overwhelmed with like rage, chaos, acting out and losing it, right? So we're just talking about ordinary suffering here. There's really not anything good or bad about it. We all get stuck occasionally. So it's good to just think about when we are stuck on the side of the ice, or when we're stuck on the side of fire, how does that show up in my life? So when we're not integrated, that hub of awareness is small. I don't have the ability to step back and reflect on my experience. I'm always stuck. So meditation helps to widen the banks of the river. And then there's more spaciousness and there's more resilience in life when we hit an obstacle. Another way to talk about this river of life is the window of tolerance. And all of us have different windows of, or thresholds of tolerance for our experience, our emotional reactivity. For example, if we have a narrow window of tolerance for anger, whenever anger arises, it's difficult to stay in a mindful place, right? We either contract, it's the silent treatment, right? Or we act out. We act out. So when you practice mindfulness, you are growing that window of tolerance. Any questions about that? Is this making sense?
Yes, it does. And maybe I have a question. I noticed during this meditation, guided meditation, it is kind of difficult to stay longer in this state, in this hab. And this is the nature of mind, I believe, just to go out to those boundaries outside. Is there any way to prevent and to stay focused and be in this hub of awareness?
That's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this class, because it is a natural thing for our minds to think. So there's so many misconceptions about meditation where people think that if you are meditating and thinking, you're just not doing it right. Well, that's what our mind does. So what we say here in the practice is, how do we work with that thinking mind versus trying to shut it down? No, we're not doing that. We're really trying to work with meditation from the inside out here. Instead of applying a technique upon ourselves, we're really going to try to work inside, organically. So it's a different kind of approach that we're starting this class with, starting your journey with.
So when you did the meditation, I was really surprised towards the end when you said, and explore what's down there. And I was just so surprised about that. So I don't think it was good or bad, or I was just surprised. And then when you explained the hub, I saw that as a refuge, as I want to go spend more time in the hub and kind of escape the rim or take a break from the rim.
Right, that's what it is. I mean, our brains think, and it's very fast paced because of the culture that we are in. That it's normal to be all over the place. So the main thing in our practice today is how to be with yourself as you are. So that's what we're saying meditation from the inside out is. So it's not about entering some deep state of concentration, really. Can you just be with yourself for 10 minutes? Yeah, it's not about imposing a kind of experience that we think is the way to meditate. Meditation, the way we're teaching it, is an act of kindness to yourself. As well as an act of courage, because sometimes, you may not like yourself, and it may be hard to spend time with yourself. So we're going to build on this as the classes go forward. Being with your experience as it is, and not what you think it should be. So the meditation instruction for this week, from this meditation from the inside out, you're going to set an intention to be still. Remember, again, intention is so important and a powerful source of wellness in your life. You're going to sit on a cushion or a chair upright for 10 minutes, and you're going to watch what you do. You're just going to watch what you do. And then after the 10 minutes, I would invite you to journal about the experience for you. What was that like? What came up? What were you doing? What were you thinking? Just journal, because writing is can be another very powerful spiritual practice as well. I've taken a course with Natalie Goldberg, who has written many wonderful books. And for her, meditation and writing are her spiritual practices. So when she writes, actually, she writes a lot of what is in her head and goes on the paper, and that helps her tremendously. But that is simply the instruction for what I'd like you to do every day of this week coming up. 10 minutes. Have the intention to be still, sit on a chair or cushion, and watch what you do for 10 minutes.
I'm looking forward to this challenge.
Inside out. I'm sorry, go ahead, nurse.
I said I'm looking forward to this challenge.
Very good, because it is a challenge. It is. Yes. It's about maybe some courage that you're building. Mm-hmm. And if you think you're too busy, do not believe yourself. You can find 10 minutes, and this is going to be the best 10 minutes of your day. So again, I'm inviting you to make a commitment to yourself, right? You're giving yourself a gift. Remember, mindfulness meditation can help you be more resilient, have more vitality and joy, and well-being, and be more functional in the world. So you're learning to trust and open to yourself in a way that is authentic. So, any questions?
I don't have a question, but I think that I realized something listening to you with your invitation and also with the descriptions, because you know, a lot of the time you go to a workshop or a class and you do guided meditations, and they're designed to help you quiet the noise and, you know, and feel better. But I'm just realizing that what you're talking about. And then there's this stereotypical thing where someone meditates for 20 minutes or an hour or does 4 hours, and then they finish their meditation, they get up and life is different and everything is perfect and they just go along the way. But I'm realizing that what you're saying is really different than that. What you're saying is that by taking this time to meditate, then throughout the day, when situations come up that are uncomfortable, or maybe even situations come up that are really wonderful, that somehow that meditation practice is a part of that during the day too. It's not just when you're sitting or however long you're sitting. And maybe that's kind of like a duh moment, but I just hadn't seen it that way before.
Right. I mean, this is a practice. It is definitely a practice that you want to then live in your entire life, right? Of this being mindful of what you're saying, what you're doing really at any moment. And of course, we cannot be like 100% mindful, like all 100% of the time. So I'm not asking that, but remembering that you're building this hub of awareness so you can make that switch, from being in the emotion, or usually it's feelings or emotions, right? The ones that really get us are anger or depression or sadness, Can we just be with it? And can we see it? And the only way we can see it is if our hub of awareness is strong or bigger, right? And we're growing it with mindfulness meditation. So in the beginning, it's hard to see the difference between, your emotion and being able to see that you're having an emotion. So that's what we're working on through mindfulness. And then, yes, it does pervade your life. Absolutely, your life is sacred. So you want to be able to appreciate each moment of it. And that comes with awareness, right? Instead of being on autopilot a lot of the times, right? We don't really know what we're doing, and there goes the day. What happened to it? I have no idea. Right. So, yeah, thank you, Stephanie. So, let me tell you a little bit about these 3 qualities of living a Zen-inspired life. I touched on it a little bit, but we've built our mission around these qualities. So, living a Zen-inspired life of openness, being open-hearted. We have a choice of either opening or closing our hearts. And when we open, we have more energy, more joy, more creativity. We're more engaged in our lives. And again, we always have a choice. So we have to be brave, because a lot of times we live our lives with a closed heart. So it's something that we learn to trust. Trusting this sad and tender heart that we have, right? The vulnerable aspects of ourselves, trusting it. And then living with empathy, you can develop through this practice more kindness and compassion in your life. You've got to slow down, though, for sure. And this practice helps us slow down by just sitting for 10 minutes and not moving. And then about compassion, we're not talking about what we call idiot compassion, right? When we don't take care of ourselves first. We need to take care of ourselves too, right? That's important. Self-care is very important. And then, being brave to face our experience as it is. That takes courage. And we can replace the judgments that we find popping up with kindness. Right? Dalai Lama said, "My religion is kindness." And then living with clarity. And so this has something to do with wisdom. You know, how we conduct ourselves. How do we build trust with people? How do we trust ourselves? And how do we speak our truth with openness, empathy, and clarity? So we have to be honest and patient with ourselves. So, and we know, it's going to take a little time. That's where we're building our patience. We're practicing our patience. And we have to have some level of personal integrity so we do not exit when the going gets tough, right? When we don't want to see something. Can we just kind of take baby steps and just hang in there for a little while before we exit? And then next time, maybe it's a little longer. And understanding that the universe is lawful and what we do counts. So, any questions? How are we doing here? We're doing really good. How are we doing? Okay? Yeah? I'm giving you a lot to think about tonight. Sure to not only think about with your mind, but with your body, right?
Yeah. I have a question about what you meant by the universe is lawful.
Uh, there's in Hawaiian tradition that I'm familiar with, we say things are pono. Pono meaning there's a right way to do things. And if you are not right with yourself or with your God, things are not going to go well. It's a kind of way to speak about karma as well. But I hate to talk about. It's just that for every action, there is a reaction that happens in life. So if you do something without integrity, that will come back to you. So it's about, how can we live our lives skillfully, right? How can we be aware of our effects on ourselves, what we think about ourselves, as well as our effects on others? So that's what I meant. Does that answer your question,
I
Martha?
think so. I think so.
Yeah. You can't expect to rob a bank, or destroy property and not expect something to come back to you for that. Something, if you're not respectful, that's going to come back to you in some way. And so, we make mistakes for sure. We make mistakes. So it's, how can we then forgive ourselves, forgive others? It's all part of this awareness practice. What are we holding on to that we don't have to hold on to anymore? This kind of clarity and insight that arises with the practice of mindfulness meditation. So, just want to leave you with a kernel of what we're teaching. You know, you are all, each one of you are absolutely unique and different. And nobody had your parents, the same parents, your genes, right? You are all absolutely unique. And, you know, nobody has your life experiences, including your life issues or stuff, right? We all have stuff, things that we might have done, things we don't like about ourselves, right? And so it can look kind of like this. Right? This just things that you just are yuck about yourself. And you probably came to this class thinking, oh, I'm going to get rid of that stuff. Right? Wrong. You're going to make friends with that stuff in this class through this practice. So it's really about being honest and open to all of your experience. There is a richness there in that yuck. There is a richness there. And you don't want to get rid of that. So being with yourself is a compassionate act. And you will find something sacred in that. And you do not have to worry what other people think, right? You can relax a little bit because you belong here, right? Your self-worth doesn't depend on what others think. You are so much larger than who you think you are. Right, in Zen we do talk about this wonderful, what we call Buddha nature. I'm using the Buddha word. What we call this sane goodness that is not only part of you, but we're connected to the whole universe. This basic goodness that we are definitely, that is part of us too. And the Chinese say that the cosmos created this beautiful planet and everything on it so it could be aware of itself. So that's what we're going to do on this journey here. I'm really excited about that. We have time for questions, Q&A now, if you have any about anything that I talked about. I kind of went through all the information pretty fast, but I think you've got the gist. Yeah.
I have a comment, not a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. I think the idea of learning to be with ourselves is very comforting, and I almost relaxed at just hearing those words, because a lot of times we're often trying to figure out what our strengths and weaknesses are, and we're trying to get rid of them and become a so-called better version of ourselves. But that's very stressful, and a lot of times it doesn't work, because it's like I read somewhere that a person can change and bend, but just like a rubber band, they go right back to who they are. So it makes a lot of sense to make peace with who you are and be with ourselves. I love that idea. Thank you. I can't wait to explore that.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
So I have a question about logistics, about how do you pick a time to meditate? How do you figure out what that 10 minutes is, and then time for writing?
Well, you have to look at your schedule. right? And you pick a time that's good for you. Put it down on your schedule book. That's what I had to do for a while to remind myself, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I have to go meditate, because it's hard to remember, really, for me. I had to put it on my schedule. So it could be different for different people, right? It's nice to have a quiet place, but it doesn't have to be, right? You don't have to be in a quiet place. I'm not giving you a certain way that you have to do this. I'm kind of not giving much of anything because people seem to make their own rules up by themselves, But the main thing is to just be intentional. You're going to spend 10 minutes just watching what you do. Intending to be quiet, to sit still.
Are there written references or materials that you recommend, or is it better to just absorb what you're saying and not get all
Well, it's good to study. It's absolutely good to study. But, at some point you just have to sit and do nothing, right? You just have to sit yourself down. It's only 10 minutes out of your day, right? So I think you can find that 10 minutes. And if not, that'll be interesting, right? It's like, how come I can't find 10 minutes in my day? You might journal that. The day went today. I don't know what happened, but it's your journaling because you're becoming aware of what you do, right? That's an important thing.
I guess it's about figuring out your priorities. Like, how big of a priority is this for me?
Yes, intention, right?
Yep.
What is your intention? Yes,
Living.
your intention is to learn something here about yourself.
Yep.
Yes, and it's going to take 10 minutes a day. And so you can't do this wrong, right? There's no way to do this wrong. You can only not do it, is the only thing. Okay? So that's interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Knowing that mindfulness is so helpful for your brain. Just knowing that you are doing something for yourself that is kind, courageous, compassionate.
I have a very general question. We were talking about Zen Buddhism. What is the characteristic of Zen Buddhism, and if there are any other types of Buddhism, or why it's Zen?
Yes, Zen Buddhism is a sect in Buddhism. SECT, branch of Buddhism. And its main practice is meditation. Zazen is what it is what it's called, sitting meditation. And it came from originally, the Buddha was in India, and then his disciples traveled from India to China, and then China to Japan. And then in the, 50s or so, it came to America with a few priests and teachers. So that was Zen Buddhism being planted in the West and has been doing really well, actually, in the American culture. And so what we're doing in this class is we're using some Western modalities to talk about mindfulness, using a little bit of neuroscience that I talked about today, about the brain and how researchers have found that meditation actually strengthens the part of our brain that can help us function better as humans. And psychology, a little bit of, we're going to be talking about emotions in the next, on the 5th class, I think, how to work with emotions. And some philosophy. So Zen that's our practice, but awakening is also part of our practicing. Awakening or enlightenment, it's waking up to what you do. That's our practice. We don't want to walk in our lives in a dream. We'll miss our lives. We don't want to miss our lives. It's rich. There's so much to appreciate. And whatever faith you are, if you practice mindfulness meditation, it will actually strengthen whatever faith you have. It will have you be, really open to learning more even about your faith, understanding your faith better. So there's no conflict here, right? The practice of meditation is not, just Buddhist. There are many religions that have contemplative practices. So we have a Zen bent to this mindfulness, our spiritual path. So meditation is one, but then we also have precepts, of how we live our lives, which are similar to the commandments, but they're different in that they're not so absolute, like we have a precept of not killing, for example. Of course, not killing human life, right? And it's one of our vows. But when we criticize someone, maybe unjustly, or when we criticize ourselves unjustly, isn't that a form of killing a spirit in some way? So we have to just kind of be alert there and see what we're doing, right? To not cause harm. So there's values that go along with the practice of meditation, how we live our lives. Oh, Stephanie, your thing is not working.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, no, now it's working.
that better? Yeah. So could you share a little bit with us about how you came to this place where you are now in your life with the practice, your mindfulness practice and
With the Zen Center.
uh-huh.
Well, when I was in my 30s, I had a very stressful job. I was the executive director of a food bank, kind of like the Greater Chicago Food Depository. That's why I came to Chicago, because of my work in food banking, which you have to move food fast because it's usually unsaleable but still edible, right? Near the pull date or not perfect in some way. So you have to move it fast to nonprofit organizations to get it to people who need it, right? They distribute it out to people in need. So that was like a type A personality job. And I was having problems sleeping, right? And so I was always interested in breathing practices because that helped me calm down. So in Zazen, in meditation, we're really focusing on our breath. And then we, go off and then we come back. That's the process where you always come back. Anyway, so I met my husband who was a Zen priest, and so he meditated. So I did too, and I found this is helping me. I can sleep. I feel much more grounded. So that's how it started. And of course, my hula practice keeps my body in shape. It's body, mind, heart. Everything has to be, I like to say, some balance, right? Some balance. But the practice of meditation has been tremendous in dealing with stress, with difficult times in my life. It has made everything workable. Is that helpful, Stephanie?
I think it's nice to hear that because, it's easy for us to see you teach us and kind of have a handle on meditation. So to know that you were a normal, stressed person who has improved that is nice to know that it's possible.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, what we have been going through in our country for the past year, 9 months, 10 months. And tomorrow's the inauguration. It's been a stressful time for many people. And so I am again grateful for this practice in helping to keep me sane, right? And I don't watch the news a lot. And that also helps me keep, somewhat sane as well. So
I've been doing some deep therapy since COVID started. It just kind of was the right time to do a lot of grieving work. And this is going to help me check in with my body. And because I tend to forget to do that and to see what am I really feeling. And lots of times I'll be walking around and, I'm like full of emotion, and then something will happen. And then I'm like, oh, okay, you're really upset, or, something, you're feeling whatever. But I have been so reluctant to like stop. How am I feeling? And talk to my little kid. And it's just like, I want to keep busy. I don't want to go there. And so the 10 minutes is probably going to be a challenge, but it'll be really good because it just will be. And tomorrow is going to be a big day, and I have a ton of anxiety about that, but sitting quietly or writing about it, that could help too.
yes.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. And if you go to our website, we have got some group sits. It's supportive to sit together, even on Zoom. It's supportive. We have a commit to sit program, which is free. You just have to register. Go to our website, zlmc.org, and go to commit to sit. And this Sunday is our Sunday Morning Zen program. I'm actually giving the talk this Sunday at 10 o'clock. And my hula students are going to be dancing as part of the talk, because my talk is about how lost am I? This is the name of my talk, and I got it from a prompt from Natalie Goldberg's writing workshop. And my students are dancing. They've been practicing about Kiona, the Hawaiian goddess of the lost. So she is able to help people who are lost in the forest. She lives on Mount Ka'ala on the island of Oahu, but it has spread. Her influence has spread so that wherever you are, if you are lost, you can ask for help, and Kiona will hear you and will help. And for us, of course, Kiona can be us as well, who we are, right? Not just somebody out there, but someone here as well. So please come to that. The Sunday Morning Zen program is also on a program in our website, and you have to register to get the links. So register, and it's free as well. So we'd love to have you there. We have a YouTube recording of the talk if you're not able to make it, and eventually it gets onto podcasts as well. So You are welcome, and I hope to see some of you there. And for sure, we'll see you next week, right, on Tuesday night. So 10 minutes. All right, that is our class for tonight. Thank you very much for coming, everybody.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Mahalo.
Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you very much, Shun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Mahalo, mahalo. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.